On this episode of the podcast, we sit down and, well, we talk about a glorious piece of Oscar bait that it is, The Good Shepard. Alex Gaspar was friendly enough to come in and talk to us about this arduous journey of a movie that I had to get through because he wanted to talk about it. But he was so much more delightful than the movie itself, and so was the conversation. I look forward to having Alex Gaspar as a repeat guest because he would be fantastic, much in the way that the former podcast guest Zach was. This was a fun discussion about a movie that was not enjoyable in the least bit for me. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. I did. This is I Want to Like This, episode 18, The Good Shepard with Alex Gaspar. Grade school, the first computers were the Mac and Mac 2.
Yep.
Macintosh 2.
Yeah, sure.
Old.
Yeah.
And so when I could get a personal computer for myself, for the first time I could buy my own laptop was in 2006 when I was 21.
Okay.
Because I was stationed in Iraq with the U.S. Army.
Okay.
So I finally had money for the first time in my poor ass life. So I bought a Mac.
Dude, yeah.
And I knew I wanted to do film production. I want to do other productions, obviously podcasts and whatnot.
Yes.
So the Mac just made more sense for what the industry was using at the time. And I had an iBook G4 for about 5 years.
Oh, wow. It lasted 5 years.
Oh, it would still run the day if I didn't give it a kernel panic by deleting something that was part of the Mac.
No.
Like, I deleted system software that needed to be in there for it to function on accident. So I caused a kernel panic and just fucked the thing. Like, it's a big, heavy brick now.
Yeah.
But it took a beating. It went through Iraq and Afghanistan. I got the second computer in Afghanistan, and the only problem with it was the person I got it from corroded the battery because they spilt milk on it.
Oh,
but it's a
yeah.
MacBook. It's straight one of the first generation MacBooks. I think it's a MacBook 2.
Okay.
But it's 2009.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is the first. This is not the first, maybe, but it's one of the pinnacle plastic bodies. I have the mid 2010 unibody, so that's what I'm working with.
No,
yeah.
it's the pinnacle.
Yeah, this is like the pinnacle plastic.
It still runs great.
Yeah.
It's still phenomenal. I love a Mac much better, but
Me too.
I can't
swear by
take
it.
it with me. And it's heavy and
oh well, okay,
it is considerably heavier,
totally,
especially
yeah.
compared to this.
Oh yeah.
And
I guess
I rode a
I'm
bike.
forgetting what you're getting,
I rode a bike from Chicago, Illinois to New Orleans, Louisiana.
Okay,
so
that's
going to
be a
lighter computer.
Yeah.
And I just needed just the bare minimum of everything, and I didn't need my iTunes. I didn't need any of that. I just needed something I could write on. So we got this.
Great. So yeah.
And then this is a piece and I can't run Photoshop on it because I can't use a trace pad on it. Like the connection pad.
I was gonna say I don't even know if would that even have the capacity to run Photoshop.
Well, I was running Photoshop.
It was running it. That's cool. What,
but
CS5 or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I swear by CS5. I know there's new functions on all the other ones, and
I like CS5. I'm so comfortable with it. Yeah.
CS5 goes up to 1080 HP
it's
on any.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's streamlined.
Yeah.
The only thing you could change with Photoshop that you actually need to change, like they make all these new tools. It's like, just give me a higher pixel resolution. That's it.
I completely agree, dude. That is literally the only thing. That's what my biggest complaint is, because I do like graphic design for like punk bands and metal bands and stuff, and even then it's like, okay, like it's just printing like 11:17 screens.
Exactly.
But still,
and I don't need that. And it's the same with okay, so Illustrator's a lot better for the resolution quality.
Oh yeah,
it's vector, so you don't really have to worry about anything.
Exactly.
And I love that. But once again, you get to a certain generation and they just want to add new tools to sell the product again. And
because that's the only thing that they can really invent up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it is such an unbelievably complex piece of like it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's just arbitrary.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about a lot of things that just keep getting built technologically. And maybe I'm getting to the point where I'm an old man.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm already getting to the point where I'm 30 years old. I've already gotten to the point where I'm an old man.
Yeah.
Oh.
I always feel cynical. So I'm only 24, so. But
I was cynical at your age, but I was in Afghanistan, so I kind of had.
Yeah, for me, I'm trying not to be. I find myself as a person in my mid-20s constantly trying to fight my own stereotypes.
That's totally you have to. You'll fall into tropes. Yeah. That's totally what this podcast is about, because it's really easy to be cynical.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
The whole point of the podcast and the name of it is like a mantra for me. It's I want to like.
Dude,
this.
I love it, man. I picked this film because if it was just like a film, like if it was just a podcast that was just like, we're just gonna talk about film, just in general, I would have picked probably a completely different movie, something that we could have been like, this is great,
this is
like,
amazing,
let's
this is
talk
fantastic.
about The Third Man, like, but no, I wanted
oh my
to,
god, right?
Which I'll allude to a little bit in this, but
Okay.
yeah, that's dude, I mean, this is like one of these things where I was like, okay, well, this has just got all the things here. You want to like it, but it's just not. And I love that that's the theme of the podcast.
Yeah, that's the whole point. So we're already recording, so do you want to tell the guests who you are?
Sure,
Introduce yourself.
My name is Alex Gaspar. I've lived in Rockford actually since I was like 5 or 6, like 1995, 1996. My parents and I moved here.
Okay.
And it's I've been playing in bands ever since I was like a freshman in high school. And usually it's just the same, like kind of just play music for a while and, you know, everyone breaks off and does their own thing. But I just like revisiting it, you know. Right. And on the side I do like graphic design stuff. I'm kind of a sort of aspiring writer, as in like I like writing but just haven't had like the medium and
I got you.
express it. But
that's kind of what we try to facilitate with this whole
This is why I'm
adventure.
excited. I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited to be here for a number of reasons. To have the opportunity.
I'm really excited to hear what you have to say because you picked the God, what year was this film?
I think it was
I think it's 2002. No, it's 2006. You're right.
2006.
It was spent
the
10 years
end of
in
2006.
production. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is
you picked the Good Shepard,
the
the
Good Shepard.
Robert De Niro directed Good Shepard.
Only did one other film prior to this.
Yes,
And it's
and
a
he
good
took on
film.
a 2-hour and 27-minute film as his sequel, as his run, as his.
Or I think it was
sophomore
actually
film.
because I just literally watched it again last night. It was 47 minutes, dude. This movie
it's 2 hours and
so
change.
laborious, and it is like trying so hard to be an
Before
Sorry,
we get to that, because there's plenty that we could say
yep.
about that.
Yep.
I'm guessing because you picked something like this and you had to get excited. I'm guessing you're a cinephile.
Yes. Huge. I mean, this is like, well, again, one of the reasons why I'm so enamored to be here. Like, really, like, I mean, I've lived here for so long, and like, you know, Zach Daly is a mutual friend of ours, and
he was a great guest on the podcast.
Dude, loved his episode. I also, Chris Rodriguez is another great friend of mine.
He has another one in the can.
Great. Dude, I'm excited to hear it. That's going to be awesome. So,
I think that'll be episode number 22 is Zach's second one.
Oh, cool. Awesome. I mean, I really look forward to hearing what Zach has to say and what film he'll select again.
He picked Transformers too.
Oh, he did. Okay,
it's fun.
I just listened to the first one and I loved that one because I just feel the same way. Honestly, like I'm really in agreement with a lot of you guys. So that's another thing why I was excited. Like, I like to discuss film with people personally that I'm kind of on the same wavelength with. I have no problem debating it, like with other people that hold altering opinions, and I do welcome it. Obviously, like if you agree on everything,
as long as it's a friendly discourse, it's always good.
Dude, that's my thing. I like the PMA aspect about the show. Also, just a side note, I was like jumping for joy when you were like, if you're a Meninist and you're listening to the show, get the fuck off. Because
I make no bones. I'm a liberal feminist. And
So
I'm
am
liberal,
I.
Not a Democrat. I'm a liberal.
Yes,
There's
liberal.
a difference.
Specifically
Democratic Party is too middle now.
Trans inclusive and POC inclusive feminist. That's what I'm about. This is the people I've been like looking for. Like I'm about to move to Madison.
I live in a house with my lesbian parents and my lesbian sister. Okay, you've come across the right people.
The good people. Anyway, so that was just really exciting. That was like, this is great. Yeah,
well, okay, so you're excited to do the podcast. Why were you excited for this movie?
Okay, so this movie, big lover film my whole life. It's my dad and mine's common ground.
It was my mom and I's common ground until I got into like really esoteric stuff, and she just stayed really face value stuff.
I'm happy that actually my dad really introduced me to the weirdness. He was the one that was like, we have to watch Eraserhead. Like,
oh, nice.
So my dad's that. Yeah, me and him are like buddy, and my brother as well. So my brother, my dad, and I have always had this common ground that we share because we all have such hugely different interests. Like, I grew up loving metal and punk and have played in bands, and my dad is a classical music fan, so like we never really saw that eye to eye. Although, for the record, I totally respect and love classical music, and I've seen it's great. But movies was our thing. It was like, okay, how do we
your
relate?
dad got you into David Lynch films?
Oh, dude, I think I was like 16 when I saw Eraserhead. I think the first, actually, as a matter of fact, that was the second David Lynch film he showed me. I
watched Twin Peaks as a kid. My mom watched episodes of Twin Peaks. I couldn't get her to watch a David Lynch film if my life depended on it.
Dude, I think that's how my mom is too.
But she likes Twin Peaks. She loves weird stuff.
Twin Peaks is even as weird as Twin Peaks is, it's definitely a little easier to get into.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, dude, I saw Mulholland Drive, right? Oh, dude. rabbits.
Is there what a
my
what a
gosh.
stage
I mean,
piece.
yeah, first of all, like I just love watching that as its own thing.
Yes.
And then of course there's the fact that it's in Inland Empire is like, wow.
It's fantastic.
It's such a beautiful part because that's a 3-hour movie that's like it's David Lynch, so I'm not going to tell him not to make a 3-hour movie.
And it's so still it's something I like. If I throw a party, I like to have on the screen because no matter what's going on, that's a discussion piece.
Yeah,
you can always
dude.
come back to it. You can always come to it if you've seen it in any part. You can come and jump in.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
I completely agree with that. It's also a good thing because it's like I've noticed that a lot of friends that aren't like necessarily like, for lack of a better term, cinephiles, they are like attracted to the weirdness of David Lynch.
Yes.
You know, they're like, oh, okay, like I know that I wouldn't see like maybe something like Upstream Color normally, but like I really liked Lost Highway, or like I really liked, Mulholland Drive, or Rabbits. Like my roommate Eric loved Rabbits, and yeah, I don't know, it's cool. It's interesting to see that. It's the relation to that, but
so you're a cinephile from your dad.
Yeah, jetting back to that.
So what brings you to
the Good Shepard?
The Good Shepard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a lot of cinephile reasons to get into it. I mean, it's got an Oscar-heavy cast.
Oh
seven Academy Award winners, an
Yeah.
Academy Award nominee. This movie, the staging, the stagings, the settings with the timepiece, and even being in Robert De Niro, this feels like it's straight Oscar bait. It is. It's
Dude,
like
isn't
an
it?
attempt. It feels like it's Robert De Niro's attempt to get an Oscar.
100%.
As a director.
Yes. Well, I mean, the first red flag is the fact that it's released in December. I mean, as you know, like, or as I'm assuming that, it's, dude, of course, the late bloomers. Like,
Yes.
Shutter Island was released in February. Even though it was a flawed film, that ruined its chances of ever getting considered for an Academy Award.
Too long from
Oh, my gosh.
the voting process.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you got excited.
I was so excited. I love spy films. I remember some of my first memories of just, I don't know, being a kid. Like, my dad, you couldn't rent movies in the early 90s.
No.
So if you wanted to watch a movie that you didn't see in theaters, you had to buy it on
This is true.
VHS. And he had bookcases. He had at one time like upwards of like 1,300 VHSs, I think. I believe that was it. And so I just
more than I ever had.
And he
I had a lot of VHS
dude,
tapes.
I'm telling you, man, our den or basement or whenever we moved and everything, it was just like all covered, It's just like with bookshelves with all these VHSs, which he eventually all replaced now with DVDs and Blu-rays. But I just remember the earliest memories memorizing the James Bond films, looking at the covers. He had like all the uniformed, like these gray VHS James Bond covers.
Favorite James Bond movie?
Oh, that's so tough. I would probably have to say, just because I believe James Bond is a character, like everyone loves the James Bond they grew up with.
Yeah.
So for me, it's GoldenEye because Pierce Brosnan. That's the one that I grew up with.
Okay. I love GoldenEye.
It's not even the best James Bond movie. It's just my
Johnson
favorite.
is amazingly sexy in that movie.
Yeah.
But
Great.
for me, it's always You Only Live Twice.
Oh, it's such a good one too.
It's
I love
fantastic.
it.
It's so racist now that I look at it. Like,
know.
as a kid growing up in white Wisconsin,
Yeah.
like that wasn't a problem.
Well,
but now
it.
I'm like,
Yep.
Sean Connery dressed like a Japanese man
so
and
bad,
painted
dude.
up so he looks That's pretty bad.
Dude,
But Volcano Secret Hideout
is so cool. Those are the things that like I get excited about with James Bond. Like I love I'm a big critic of like I hate that everything has to be gritty. I hate
Yes.
it. But I like where this Daniel Craig franchise is going.
Yeah,
I'm a
I
fan.
love this because it makes
Oh my
sense.
gosh.
It
Totally,
makes
yes.
sense in certain genres. Like
does.
I don't need fucking DC and their stupid Zack Snyder gritty superhero films.
Oh my
Because it doesn't
gosh,
make
dude.
sense for the characters.
So I have to real quick just give a quick shout out to fuck you Zack Snyder to continue that trend on this podcast, because as I've been listening to him, I'm like, we can't let that tradition die. Don't need to get into a thing. I
will never let that tradition die.
I just watched Man of Steel for the first time yesterday.
Is it awful? It's awful.
Well, I will say this. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting it, just because 2 years had gone by and I had heard all this bad bullshit. And also, I'm the first to admit that I'm not the biggest I would like to be. I'm just not the biggest comic book knowledgeable guy. And so I like to ask people, like, I'm hoping that you'll do another Man of Steel so you can delve into why the character
We have a
was
plan
wrong.
for next year before Dawn of Justice comes out to have 4 people sit in with me and do a panel on the DC universe, what they're doing wrong and how you could fix it.
Oh wow, yeah.
And my idea for fixing it is still scrapping it all.
Dude, I am with you there.
So-
I think it needs Zack Snyder to be out of the picture, maybe move him to a different continent.
Oh, God, yes.
Anyway, so
Somewhere
yeah.
where they don't have film.
Yeah. So
That
I love
matters.
spy movies, dude. I just
So you love
love
spy
them so
movies.
much. And I got so excited because this is a movie about the birth of the counterintelligence unit.
Yes.
Like this is
It's
such
not
an
exactly the
important story.
like there's spy flicks which are like the James Bond films, and this is an espionage film.
Yes.
Which I think is so like the nuances are different. The suspense is different. And I like those films. I like the espionage films. I like the counterintelligence films. I like the actual drama of the life and death situations that can come from that.
I completely agree. It is actually some of my favorite stuff. Like as much as I love I was also just thinking, I just also this weekend saw Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. I love that franchise. I can defend that another time, but that is unabashedly like just such great popcorn fodder spy movie. So I love that aspect, and I also love the realist drama of espionage.
Yeah.
And I actually when we get to the end, when we talk about the Fix It, there are two films that upped this film that we will discuss, and yeah, that you could replace easily. Like, you don't need this movie.
So you love the genre.
Love the
It's
genre.
obviously got a great cast.
The cast is amazing, dude.
Yeah, and you know, Robert De Niro has been he's sat at the side of greats. And his first outing is not a bad film.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's all this expectation for this film. And I remember that there was a great amount of expectation for this film.
Yes.
Around the Oscar season.
Huge.
So the second question on this is, what did you like about this film?
I actually, watching it twice, I have sitting before me here the most just pile of disorder.
You have more notes than I normally have for this podcast.
This is like, I didn't, when I literally did all the notes last night too. Like I said, I watched it like a couple weeks ago, and then I watched it again last night because I just wanted to like get all of it as I could. I now no longer ever need to watch this movie again. Thank fucking God. So that's over with, but I did compile just a ton of shit. So I do like the cast, like we said. The cast is awesome. I mean, just speaking about the cast, though, not necessarily the performances, because those are split.
I will touch on the performances when we talk about the other part.
Definitely.
But what I will say is the cast works valiantly to get across what the source material is.
Yeah.
So
They
there's
try.
I would not give the cast any flack on this.
No, I wouldn't either.
Nor would I give, I mean, it's shot right. It is shot right.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, that's the other, dude, that is one of the main aspects of this film is the cinematography is, I mean, it's short of breathtaking, honestly. They get the periods right.
Exactly.
They
And that's
get
what
it
I was going to say
so
about this.
right.
Like the physicality of this movie is right.
Yeah.
There's the death sequence that leads to the Thames.
Yep.
The physicality of this movie, whether it's in the set dressing, whether it's in the shots they use, the settings they choose, or even the physical altercations and how people physically interact. The physicality of this film is right.
It is right. It feels real. They're trying to make the espionage game so grounded that it just, you feel like you're there. And honestly, I have to say that another one of the things I really like is probably about, I mean, with qualms, the first third of the movie is pretty solid.
It is solid in aspect,
in parts.
It
jumps for me.
And that's where we'll start getting into problems. But before we get into that, like, I do think that the way they really tried, despite that all the characters, this is a fictional work, but it's based off of historical accuracies. It's based off of people who actually lived. Yeah. And I think they try to do justice to I really do think they try to do justice to the ideas that fed to the foundation of the CIA. The implementation is wrong.
Its reach, and again, we'll touch this, I know whether its reach far exceeds its grasp. It's just one of these things that it's just, you've got an overambitious film, but again, talking about the good things, the pieces are there. That's what I like so much about it, is that, okay, before the game starts, I mean, we've got a solid team, right? Like, everything is, I mean, we've got Eric Roth, who wrote, in my opinion, one of the best screenplays of the late 90s, which is The Insider.
I was going to touch on The Insider, because that is an espionage film done right.
Oh my god!
But he's only co-writer for that.
Oh, that's true. Do you remember, you have up who did the, I can't even.
He shared the credit with Michael Mann.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, I forgot Michael Mann did character.
Yeah,
right.
in The Insider.
Yeah.
And he
But
was also Munich with Steven Spielberg's
which
Munich.
is another great film because
He's
it's
co-writer for that
tense.
too. And it has the suspense and the intrigue that is necessary for this kind of film.
Yeah.
Because it's an espionage film. It is all intrigue.
Yeah. It really is. Utterly, I think at the end of it, it's like his strengths almost become his weaknesses. And again, we'll touch on that later. But when you've got him at the helm, I mean, dude, we're solid. Like, this is a guy he's got Robert De Niro in the director's chair. Like, the team is ready to go. You know, I mean, Matt Damon is like in the midst of like the Bourne franchise.
Yes.
So he's
he's
superstar.
just done the first two. He's done. He's an Academy Award-winning screenwriter.
Yeah.
He's an Academy Award-winning actor.
Yep. This is just like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, you know, he's done all these great dramatic roles and he's done action roles. Now let's watch him get a Best Actor nom and just see what happens. Maybe De Niro will actually pull this through.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he?
And there's so many people, like, there's so many great hands in this. Michael Gambon is in this.
I like
Alec Baldwin is in this.
I was going to mention that Alec Baldwin is, as far as the supporting cast goes, he is a bright spot in this movie.
Alec Baldwin is a bright spot in nearly everything he does.
Dude,
he is a joy to watch.
Have you seen Rogue Nation?
No, I haven't seen Rogue Nation.
Not spoiling
Wait,
anything.
Is Baldwin in it?
Yes, he's
I'll go
a
see
prominent
it.
character.
I'm done.
Okay,
I'm down.
Not spoiling anything. This is just his performance is like hammy to the point of lovable, and it's just he nails it. I love it.
He works so fun. He knows exactly where he's playing to.
I know
Because I think, and he can play dramatic roles. He can play hard roles.
Yep.
Oh God, I can't remember this film, but it's Something's First, and it actually is about a girl who goes to disobey her mom and her stepfather in the situation she is. She ends up going into prostitution, and she ends up blackmailing her stepfather, who's played by Alec Baldwin. And the way he plays the role it's both it's unsettling to the situation, and he is doing wrong in the situation, but you feel compassion for him because you understand where he's coming from, the character, and the way he portrays it. He has such an ability for dramatic roles. He has and he has comedic timing. Like, he knows, like I always say,
30 Rock, man.
Exactly.
Jack Donaghy is an unbelievably
even all of his
hilarious
appearances on
character.
SNL, which is what leads to him being in 30 Rock, because Tina Fey, who is my dream woman.
Canteen Boy. Was that it? Okay.
Anyone who understands the nuances of comedy really can play drama, really can understand nuance. Like John Hamm. John Hamm is an amazing comedic actor. He's a phenomenal dramatic actor. And the people who really understand comedy and nuance and subtlety, even when they're dopey characters, can have great dramatic moments, like fucking Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt is phenomenal.
Chris Pratt is phenomenal. You know, I have to mention this because it's the 1-year anniversary of his death, but Robin Williams is that type of actor.
I can't even...
It was hard for me not to... I was like, it
was hard for me to get through, because we had this day, we watched... Jerry and I watched the classic, what I think is the classic, The Birdcage.
Oh, it's... Dude, La Cage aux Folles.
It's so phenomenal.
Now, in the film version,
Jerry is literally dancing behind you to the birdcage in his head. But I love that. Even John is amazing at that. Like, everyone in that movie is phenomenal. Wow. Nathan Lane is always superb, over the top.
I love him so much.
But Robin Williams is so grounded in his performance, and he adds just a regular guy, Joe kind of feel to a homosexual man, which could be played over the top like Nathan Lane's character is, because that does. I've been around homosexual people my entire life, so people don't get all fucking offended because I'm a cis white heterosexual male saying this. But that exists in the gay community.
Yeah.
And then the gentleman, like a more subdued, like Robin Williams is, a man who's in control, who is there, and he is the grounding force. Those exist too. Like the gay community is just as diverse and diversified as the heterosexual community, and I think they played some of those while still playing tropes that were comedically funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Robin Williams is always, like, I grew up watching Mork and Mindy. Like, I'm a kid who, my mom worked different jobs, so I would come home and we'd watch Nick at Night. So I grew up with Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore and Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
So while we're touching on this, and this was a really off tangent, like...
Oh, yeah. It just had to definitely bring that, just because Mrs. Doubtfire helped me get through my parents' divorce.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that was that type of movie.
As a comedian who can be very physical on stage with how awkward they are, and as someone who goes through depression and through amazing depths of depression some days, Robin Williams always I always connected with Robin Williams.
Absolutely.
And it was a heartbreaking moment when someone told me that.
It really was a tough day. Like, and I hate to, make it seem any like more so than all the other travesties, but it's, anyway, I really just.
It's cool. But no, that's my thing
is
someone who really understands comedy, understands nuance, and understands how to make those connections, understands drama.
Yeah.
And Alec Baldwin
he capitalizes on that strength.
Phenomenal
that he has,
at that.
Man. He really does. He's so good. He's so versatile because he can be, again, over the top when he wants to. He can be subtle when he wants to. And he doesn't have to be the guy chewing up the scene. Like, I love him in Glengarry Glen Ross, but in this movie, he is good as playing the actor that both acts as a plot, tool, because he's, he ends up, so he's pretty much getting Matt
Damon's
Damon's
a bit of
feet
an
wet.
expeditionary force.
Yeah, he really is. But it's like when you don't notice it, like I didn't like really the first time, and you just like his character and it's interesting. It's like, okay, I can back this. So like his character I think is good, bright spot.
He's one of the two people in this film where when they show up, I enjoy this film because him and then Joe Pesci shows up.
Oh, there he is. Yep.
And he's there for like 20, not even 20 minutes.
No, dude,
Just
he's
scene.
literally there for one scene that lasts maybe 2-3 minutes.
Like he's there for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And it's the first time he's been at work in 8 years. Like,
dude,
after Lethal Weapon 4, he's like, I'm done.
Out.
I'm out. I made enough money. Screw it.
He got that phone call from Robert De Niro, just like, can you get in here? Like, like
Joey, I'm gonna need you to come in here, and I'm gonna need you to sit down and read this for me.
I used to be able to do a great. Joey, I'm gonna need you to get down here. It's terrible now. It used to be way better when I tried.
Mine was worse, so who cares? Like
Robert De Niro impressions, I love it. No, but it's so funny. Actually, that scene has one of my favorite lines, and I wish they did more of this in the film. I really liked just kind of like the connection between, like, there wasn't enough of like the duty. Like, he's obviously a blind patriot because like there's like no motive really for what he's doing. It's just kind of like, okay, does it.
Well, I think the motive that they tried to imply early on is from that letter with his dad and knowing that his dad was in the Navy.
Boy, we got to get to that, man. That's going to be in the bad pile.
It is. But they connect on that. His father was a service member, so there's obviously this concept of service.
It's there.
To someone who's hero.
Definitely. I like the line where he says, Joe Pesci's like going through all of like, like this particular race has the traditions and this has this and this has this. What do you guys have? He says, United States of America. The rest of you are just visiting. And I was like, if that is not just like, this movie is so cold, but like, damn, that's a cold ass line.
Yes,
like,
yes, it is.
There are a couple of those that I really like in this movie that just deliver punches. It's like solid, but
yeah, it has its moments. But the thing that, like, Joe Pesci adds a little bit of levity to the film, and so does Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
And I think that's when have we reached the zenith of what you liked about this?
Oh, man. I mean, the cast, the cinematography, I'm, like, just looking through, like, the notes real quick. A lot of these are just so small, and we need to get to the bad stuff.
I'm so on the
much more.
score. But the original composer walked.
Who was it?
I can't, I can look at this really quick.
You know what? I did like this. I actually had some criticisms about the score originally.
Well, here's the thing. The original composer, he had such a disagreement with Robert De Niro that he walked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was one of the troubles that came about. Like, the music for the film was produced by Brian Fuller. They replaced James Horner. James Horner left the project for creative differences. He would just get in arguments with De Niro, and he's just like, I don't want to work here. And he left.
I literally thought in my head, you know who would be good for this? The score's not bad, but James Horner. I think James Horner would be like pretty good.
He might have been amazing.
He might have been good.
But
I mean,
apparently Robert De Niro just didn't see what Horner was doing.
I mean, I guess like De Niro's vision isn't bad. It's subdued. The score is understated. I will say the one thing I did really like. I hate the end scene of the movie, but the piece of music that's behind it is driving. It is just like so awesome. Too bad the scene sucks and Matt Damon's character is lifeless.
Well,
and
yeah,
so I don't know. There's some good scenes. There's one scene with the briefcase that's very Hitchcocky, and that's another thing I like. Again, these are all just small. Overall, it's really just the cast, the cinematography. It's the the outside perspective. It's just what's on the outside right now. The substance of the film, though.
And that's where we're going to get into what you didn't like about this film.
Boy, where to start?
I know exactly where to start with what is wrong with this film. Yeah. And it's the script.
Oh, 100%. The script is the main problem. Absolutely.
Because it's like we said, there's all these fine actors. Mm. And I said, we can't diss on them for not trying to bring these to life.
Yeah.
But the script is so wooden for them.
It is so lifeless. It is devoid of the main problem with the script that I think I've really deciphered, because it does boil down to the last couple final scenes, really the scene with the plane, is that the film doesn't have any suspense. There's just anticipation.
Yeah.
We know exactly what's going to happen. It's just when. So when they cut back to the plane, it's just useless fodder. It's like,
and that's my problem. That's another problem. I think it's written in the script.
Yeah.
So it's not the editing.
Yeah.
But this movie is out of timeline sequence, right?
Yeah, it is.
And it's a suspense and intrigue film.
Yeah.
I don't understand who thought, oh, it's a spy film, that if we're going to completely derail the concept of danger for our protagonist by showing him alive during the end of the film at the beginning of the film.
Exactly.
Because the film begins and ends in the same place.
Yeah.
But
pretty much.
There's no suspense. Like, I know that Matt Damon's character makes it through, and at some points they try to touch on, is he going to be found for this, or is he going to be accused of that, or what's going to happen? But you know where he ends up.
Yeah. I think that tying the script is kind of the web, or I guess like this is just a terrible metaphor. It's like the tree, and everything that stems from it, Matt Damon's performance is stemmed from the script. I can't blame him.
No.
Because I know he's a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to question that. I've seen him in great stuff. He was absolutely phenomenal in even the smallest roles. Interstellar, awesome. Like, does a great job playing the urgency that would come from that. He's versatile, even though he's straight,
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. He's good. He's a great actor. And the problem, I think, really is that it boils down to he doesn't... I think there was some discussion. I don't know if it was between him and De Niro or him and Roth, but basically someone came to the decision to say, hey, don't make any facial expressions the entire movie
He's
at
so
all.
Flat and so
Don't react
dead.
to anything. Do not. Even when the worst thing could possibly happen, just act like nothing happened. Because dude, I remember I was reading the Wikipedia synopsis, and at the end of the movie, there's like the point where Eddie Redmayne, Edward Wilson Jr.
I have it up here right now.
He tells him, he's like, well, she was pregnant, and when he reads the news that she died, and the Wikipedia article, I believe, says that Edward Wilson was like visibly emotionally distraught,
and then Matt Damon flinches for a bit, and there's nothing there.
Barely there. It's like you hope maybe
he's going to react to the fact that he killed his grandchild, and then
doesn't.
nothing.
He just says like, I love you, and that's like it. And it's like, dude, there's no emotional gravitas. The scene falls flat. It is just dead.
You're right. That's the problem. Every character is cardboard. They're two-dimensional in this film. There's no depth. There's no depth written in there, and there's no depth directed into it.
No character development whatsoever.
Like, he's an actor. He's an actor's actor, Robert De Niro. Okay, maybe he's not an actor's actor. He can play him.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays. He just plays Robert De Niro.
Boy, that's another thing. Robert De Niro literally was an exposition.
Yeah.
That's it. He made like 2 jokes. He's like, well, I can't stand up on my legs. Like, I got to piss through or something. Like, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And then he's like, okay, I need you to go overseas. Like, that's all it is.
And that's the thing. Like, you would think with an actor as the director, the performances would shine through.
Yep, you'd think.
And there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's just, I don't care about these people.
Yeah.
I don't think they care about each other.
They don't.
There's one moment where Angelina Jolie gets like impassioned, but she's just straight yelling at him.
Dude, she is a bright spot, and she does the best with a trope. The housewife trope is so stereotypically written. She is like, just why even have her character in the movie? Like, seriously, because she literally placates to a stereotype.
Yes, she does.
Where she just acts like, she plays like young and frivolous, and then she's like grows up and just becomes the cold shrew. And it's like, cool, so that's it. That's the wall that we're gonna run into head first, like with her character. And she's so good.
They could
even
say
still.
that it's like she's a character of the time.
That's the thing.
But like they're.
You could say a lot of stuff.
Mad Men did characters of that time with the housewife thing, and the characters have nuance, and the characters have depth, and this character doesn't. So that's just showing.
They only show the movie through the and that's even like the basic synopsis. They only show it through the prism of Matt Damon. So there's no scenes of Angelina Jolie recognizing anything herself. There's a moment that they waste, and that so many of them happen this way. But this one in particular is just seething. They're like back of the skull and bones thing, which that was a good little thing when she says God first or bones first, God second. That was a good, because the first time she says it to Matt Damon about everyone else, and then the second time she says it about him to her son.
Yeah.
That was a cool thing. But the thing that was weird is that they have this thing where he's like, do you want to dance? And it's after they've already fought and admitted to each other that they hate each other and have for years and don't care about each other.
Yes.
And they're about to dance, and it could be this unbelievably tender moment of some extremely good chemistry between the characters, which hasn't happened at all. And she says, I'm moving to Phoenix to live with my mother. A plot point we could have gotten with a phone call, with a postcard in passing that would have taken 1 second, and they chose to waste a moment on just this like asinine, just useless.
Also, you could have had a moment for Matt Damon with the postcard.
Yeah,
she won't even speak to him. Like this is.
But even
like,
then,
gravity and...
the way that he reacts to pieces of paper in this film is so lifeless and horrible. It's like, man, that scene probably would have just been wasted as well.
It's true. It really would have.
It's just so bad. There's just so many things. I mean, I really liked all the stuff. I think I touched on this earlier. Like, all the OSS stuff with Michael Gambon was great,
yes.
and, like, his death was really good, but, like, they should have done more with that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of bright, shining, like, there's scene stealers who get to emote. And I wonder, I want to say I wish their characters were more in the movie, but I wonder if they had been more heavily featured, if they would have suffered the same things that Angelina Jolie's characterization does, and the same thing that Matt Damon's characterization
does. Yeah.
Because I don't know if he knew how to write them aside from their shining little moments. He wrote shining little moments, but the protagonists are dishwater.
Yeah.
They're dull. They're insipid.
It's the catch-22 of this film. He spends so much...
Can I state that the idea that Angelina Jolie's character, the wife, being viewed through Matt Damon's eyes, and that's all he sees it, just shows that... It either shows that he doesn't know how to... Like, the writer does not know how to view nuance in someone he's in a relationship with, which could be a problem, because he wrote her very flatly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where... If he sees someone emoting like that, but he still writes the characterization flatly, that means there's probably something wrong with how he views people in relationships with himself.
Exactly.
Or that's how the character is supposed to view her.
Which
would make sense for how flat Matt Damon's character is.
Absolutely. But, like, that's the thing. I think really, honestly, if I could boil it down to one thing that I keep coming back to, it's that all of the pratfalls of this movie may be true. Ergo, Matt Damon's flatness as a character. The two guys that Edward Wilson is based on could have just been really boring company men. Maybe this entire organization is company men, and maybe the whole flatness of it reflects that. Yeah. But it doesn't make it a good movie.
No,
and
not at
all. And it sure
all.
as shit doesn't even make it just a good story in general.
No. And can we explain how convoluted this story is? Not only does it time jump like it does, but they don't pick a period. They don't pick a story. If they were going to focus on the story leading up to the Bay of Pigs, they could have done it so much better and so much. It's like you said early on, it's overreaching.
It does, yeah. It should have only existed in, like, if the movie started in, like, say, like 1957 or 8, pre-Cold War, and then
but post-World War II.
Post-World War II, and then it just focuses on Cold War for, like, a 2-hour and change movie. That would have been good. It's like, even though the pre-war stuff is interesting and, like, the scene where he learns all about the ins and outs is interesting, I don't know if, like, the origin story thing is just, it's not working in this film. So focus it on the things that work. I think the interrogation scene is good.
Yes, it's good, but it's so cliche.
Man. Dude, when they waterboard him, wasn't that just like this is the first time this is happening? Like,
but,
you know.
Yeah, and also, there's no way the viewer does not understand who the real person is and who the fraud is directly off the bat. Because the second you hear the most strong accent in it, it's so heavy-handed that he's the villain.
Dude, he failed the polygraph test, and they talk about it. Yeah. They go, I know I failed the polygraph test, but, like, you know, he's like, I swear I'm legit. And they don't even bat an eye. They're just like, yeah, okay. And then, like, the guy on LSD is like, I'm still the person I claim I am. And I would
rather be free, and he kills himself.
Whoever that guy was great.
Yes.
Whoa, he dominated everyone in that scene. Also, I really did like some of the cinematography in that scene is very, like, Good Night and Good Luckish. Okay. With some of the reflections of the window and the headphones and the cigarette smoke. Yes. I liked those a lot. I did want to point that out. But yeah, that scene was just so trite, and it was like that guy dominated it, but it needed more of that. Like, the violin scene, again, it's just a moment that falls flat because he's just like, I just wanted to hear you play something that was true. And, like, what? Like, what? No.
there's so many. It's just.
So the movie's
heavy-handed.
overflowing with all
Yes.
that stuff. Yeah, just tons of it. And then I mean, I've got so much more stuff. I'm sure that we're like way over time, but I just want to do the last scene.
Oh, we're fine. We can discuss.
Okay, we can just keep running cool. Well, I don't know. This last page of notes. The movie is so anticlimactic. That is just.
Yeah,
it's like spewing with just being anticlimactic. It's absolutely insane. Like, there's so many lame duck scenes. Like the museum scene, like when he meets up with Ulysses, is like just so lame. I don't even know if you got that far in the movie because it's like towards the end of it. When it's just again like everything's just like whatever. Like okay, we'll do this. And then...
I was an hour and change into it, and I just jumped to the last 30 minutes.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, that was in the last. Yeah,
I cannot do.
Dude,
this.
you didn't miss much at all, really. Like, yeah, and then the whole thing with the wedding, and just we touched on how like the plane scene. It's supposed to literally be the moment. It's supposed to be the coup de grace.
It repeats so many times unnecessarily.
Oh, dude,
like, it's just anticipation. Like you said, it's anticipation. It's not at all suspense.
No suspense.
Like I know every time I see it, I'm like, oh, that she's dead.
Yeah. Oh,
she's fucking.
She's
dead.
gonna die. We all know it. Even with Michael Gambon, like, as much as I like to say, like, that scene was a bright spot because it's moody and the lighting's good and it's very Carol Reed-ish, you know, like, again, Third Man, you know, like, I see a lot of that visual, like, Joseph Cotton in there and everything, but it's void of substance because it's like, I mean, you know he's gonna die. Like, you know, like, they allude to it so much that he's just gonna die. So it's like, okay. And then that's another thing. That's another case in point. You could literally end every scene and cap it off with, oh, and Matt Damon reacted to that with absolutely zero emotion. Once again, just flat face.
Yeah.
So,
and that's my biggest problem with it. And also the suicide note thing.
Terrible.
Who doesn't read that in their lifetime?
Exactly.
And then it was just to be like, oh, everything you thought about your dad and you dedicated this whole idea. Well, your dad was a traitor and a piece of shit. And, even by his standards, what he wanted from you, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, you failed. Like, you're supposed to be a good father. Nope. Good husband. Nope. Good, patriot.
Good
man.
man.
Yeah. Like, no, you were a total piece of shit. Like, you stabbed everyone in the back. Like, and that's the other thing, too. It's like, that would have been great had they made the movie all about that.
Yes.
See, the biggest problem, and I probably said that about a million times, the biggest problem with this film, really the biggest problem stems from that this film has a lack of focus.
It does. It has a lack of focus. It reaches too far. It's the script. It's the script.
Oh, the script, dude. Again, it blankets everything, and all the bad that stems from it just comes right from the script. And it's just like, man, that last scene, the cinematography I praise, but then when they focus on like the ashes and like it's slow motion with the garbage can, I was just like, boo.
Yes.
Like, this is trite and horrible.
It was fucking awful.
Lame, so. Yeah.
I
want to like this movie.
Yeah, it has all the ingredients where you're like, okay, yes,
here
let's
we go.
do this.
I remember the trailer. That's another thing when I was saying, like what I'm excited
for.
Oh,
yeah, I saw that. The trailer, I was like, this looks
times,
great. This looks great. Awesome. Angelina Jolie in it looks amazing. Like that scene in the trailer. In the trailer, they show the scene where she goes off on him about not knowing her husband.
Yep.
And like he's like, I don't know my son. And you're like, oh, these have all this moments if they focus on his if like if the focus was his home life.
Yep.
And how that affects his home life, that would have been an awesome idea to do.
Oh,
and
dude.
They just don't deliver on any idea.
That's what they needed to do so bad. They needed to pick one or the other. They just tried with too much.
And that's one of my problems with most films nowadays, especially all the things that make for Oscar films.
Yep.
They forget that they're telling a story, and they decide they're just going to throw everything out there.
Oh, man, it's the problem with, countless films, from Oscar films to superhero films to the Star Wars prequels. I mean, man, you talk about a film that's flooded with simultaneous plot points that go into places that you don't care about. Like,
well, I guess we're kind of touching on it already. Like, the final question: how would you have made this work?
Man, this is So, I don't know if I meant. I really.
I think we kind of already touched on this
touched
already.
On it so bad.
They need to focus on one story.
Yeah. They need to focus on one story. So the two I had mentioned earlier, like, there are two spy movies I love that have come out both within the past 10 years that are excellent. And one specifically focuses on the espionage, while the other one doesn't necessarily focus per se on one man's view of his own home life.
Yeah.
But it is a much more personal relationship. That film in particular is Breach with Chris Cooper and Ryan Phillippe.
Breach.
It actually, this film, unlike The Good Shepard, which claims that it's based on a true story and then just borrows a bunch of stuff and throws it together, because that's another problem I had with it. It's like, oh, it's based on a true story. Matt Damon's character must be really flat in real life.
It's the
like,
Jackson
nope, they actually
Pollock
just wrote him.
of
Yeah.
true stories. They
Exactly.
just took different paints and threw it at the canvas.
Yeah,
and go,
not
here's a movie,
not
Oscar.
not as bad as the Fargo based on a true story, but which is always my favorite. But yeah, they need to like Breach is a great movie. And it's based on the actual true story of the biggest mole in CIA history.
Yes.
Robert, whatever his last name is, and he's played by Chris Cooper, who should have got nominated for an Oscar for this movie. I mean, his performance is unmatchable.
We're not
going to
talk about my feel on the Academy because
dude,
I think
the
they're
Academy is
pretentious
so-
snobs.
Yeah, I should mention
wait,
that when
I
I
did.
say
I just told-
they
I
are
just said
completely
exactly
pretentious
what I
snobs,
thought
and
about
it's
the
totally a
Academy.
boys' club, and it's totally a favorites club, and it's absolutely sexist pandering bullshit. And I only say Oscar worthy to metaphorically allude to
That it was
greatness.
the best.
That
it was
like,
one of the
this
best
should have been
performances
like,
of the year.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Chris Cooper is just.
If we just
killing
base things on
everyone.
the best performances of the year, fucking Pratt would have got nominated for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, man, I love Guardians.
And Robin Williams, who we mentioned, would have had so many more nominations than just comedy.
That's true. He would have gotten nominated for his role in Insomnia, which I think deserves.
He would have
at
gotten
least a little-
nominated for
some more-
Mrs. Doubtfire
Oh,
for
oh,
just
dude,
a leading
so
male.
many roles. Yeah.
The spin on it, you actually felt for a man who didn't have his family,
Yeah.
who just wanted to see his kids.
Mhm.
Like, fuck anyone.
It was
that
such an awesome, like,
brilliant.
tragic clown, modern, like, early 90s kind of story.
Exactly.
So great.
But yeah, so this film just, you'd have to streamline it. You have
Yeah.
to find those points to really focus on. Cut down the runtime. Can we
Oh my
please cut down
gosh.
runtimes?
Now, I don't necessarily adopt to the all movies need to be 90 minutes.
standard, yeah.
I think the max for like a lengthy, solid like crime film is like just shy of 2 hours, like
Yes.
155. I'm okay with that. I still like to take 2 hours to watch a movie.
My favorite crime film in the last like 20 years is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Dude, that's a great
It's a
movie. I
perfect
love Val
movie.
Kilmer
I
in
love
that
that
movie, dude.
movie.
It's so funny. The other movie that I was going to talk about, because Breach is the personal relationship, and in this movie, it's so awesome because there is espionage, but like it's just really focused on like more of the personal life
Yeah,
stuff.
it's not really an espionage film, like
Yeah.
because espionage films have suspense.
Exactly. An espionage film that has suspense that works, that this movie should have been, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. A movie I really, really love because right off the bat, it just really reels you in, I think.
Yeah.
And the characters are colorful, they're creative. There's just genuine suspense. Like, towards the end of the movie, I'm like, as much as I have to read this movie with subtitles on because it's quiet and
Yes.
like the accents are thick, I'm like still like, this
You're
is
enthralled.
gripping. And I care about George Smiley because like, well, first of all, Gary Oldman, who like could walk over everyone in a scene. I mean, seriously.
Gary Oldman is
so good.
what everyone says Gary Oldman's great, but they give so many people more credit than Gary Oldman.
So many.
Daniel
dude.
Day-Lewis is a hack compared to Gary
Oh
Oldman.
my gosh, dude. Daniel Day-Lewis needs to like chill. Like
I keep upsetting people because I'll say like, no, Daniel Day-Lewis plays every role the exact same.
Yeah, he does.
And people don't get like,
It's
no, he's nuanced. He's a character. He's a method actor. No, he's a hack.
Gangs of New York and as much as I will defend There Will Be Blood, Gangs of New York and There Will Be Blood are the same character pretty much.
They're the exact same character. They're fantastic movies.
Oh, dude.
But
yeah,
can we
yeah.
acknowledge he got cast in they're the same character.
Totally the same character.
Like,
yeah.
And then you got guys like Javier Bardem who do play quieter characters because that's his tone of voice, but he plays things with such different nuance.
He does. Yeah.
Like No Country for Old Men.
Oh my gosh,
compared
that
to
movie is so
Skyfall.
unbelievable.
He's
His
completely
range
different
is
people.
insane, man. He really and the thing about that I love is that he can play two types of villains and make me frightened both times.
Exactly. And that's the thing. They have a cast in this movie.
Yeah.
The Good Shepard has such a phenomenal cast. They've
So
all
wasted.
proven they have that kind of range.
Yeah.
And it's wasted, and I think the one thing we can improve, the one thing we can agree on that could be fixed to make this better
Yeah.
is the script.
The script.
The script is the problem.
It needs another hand, and it needs someone else with another perspective, and
That's
it
what I
needs
was
someone
gonna
to
say.
trim down the fat because
It needs someone in control.
it does,
of-
yeah. It just feels so bloated. Like he just penned a couple drafts and was like, okay, like I really couldn't think to take anything out.
And he wrote it in 1994.
That's crazy. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, it was in production for 10 years, and like directors walked away from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would have actually really liked to have seen this movie filmed in the mid-90s because I love the way that movies... I almost think that like there's like 1992 to like 1997 is like this weird golden age where films just look different.
Yes.
Almost in the 90s.
Eric Roth wrote it.
Yeah.
Of course. But like there were other directors assigned to this at first in the production, and it just got turned over
so many times. I mean, dude, that happens with so many things.
He wrote the screenplay in 1994 for Francis Ford Coppola and Columbia Pictures.
Who produced it? Coppola did produce this.
Yeah, Coppola still signed. No, Coppola signs on as a co-executive producer.
Oh, okay, so he's just.
But this is why Coppola said he walked away. He could not relate to the characters due to their lack of emotion.
Oh my gosh! So they didn't.
He nailed it right on the bat. Francis Ford Coppola walked away from this because he's like, yeah, this is what's wrong with this. And then it took another 10 years, and the screenplay didn't change
at all.
No, and that's the problem. I think what we see from if you look up Eric Ross IMDb is that if he has co-writers, he needs someone else to rein it in.
Absolutely.
He's one of those guys who will come up with a bunch of ideas, but he needs someone to tell the heart of the characters and guide the story.
I mean, yeah, dude, there's a lot of directors that could have absolutely worked so much better had they followed that. George Lucas is one of those people. I think the Star Wars movies would have been way more successful had he had an actual team that cared behind him.
Well, if he had a co-writer who went, you're going too far,
absolutely.
This is your fan base.
Yeah. As someone I know that there were multiple writers on, like, The Dark Knight Rises, but, like...
The Dark Knight Rises is terrible.
Did David Goyer co-write The Dark Knight Rises with Jonathan Nolan? Yeah, they needed to get David Goyer the fuck out of that franchise after The Dark Knight.
They need the Nolans out.
The Dark Knight's
not a good Batman film.
Yeah, and I heard you make that argument on the podcast, and I literally came to agree with that because of that. I was like, wow, he's fucking right. And also the way that you put into perspective how it's like, yeah, Batman's not relatable at all. He's like totally weird. I was talking to my brother about
Batman
this
is not relatable at all. He's a sociopath. He's not a psychopath. He's not out killing people.
That's what
he's a sociopath.
He's a sociopath.
Joker's a psychopath, which they don't get right in Dark Knight.
They don't get right
either.
at all. The only thing I can excuse for Dark Knight is I choose to just look at it as if I accept it as a film that took the characters from those comics and said, let's just rework this real quick, make a great crime caper.
Characters.
Yeah,
they
that's what I'm
take
saying.
The character
they
names
meld
and
meld
slightly
it too
the
much.
appearance.
Yeah, right. I mean, they take the characters and they literally pull them apart so much that there's something else.
Yes.
But I do like that if I were to interpret it as they just did it.
Well, I like to think of it as an alternate reality. Everyone's
Me too.
like, that's the true
I
Batman.
never believed that.
That's the alternate reality.
Yes.
The true Batman is Batman the Animated Series.
Well, and I defend, and that's the other thing too. Yes, Kevin Conroy is the only real true Batman.
Well, yeah, but the whole cast, the storytelling, everything, it's timeless and it fits. Every genre of Batman can learn.
Yeah.
Every writer of Batman can learn from that series.
Absolutely.
Bruce, Tim, and Paul Dini fucking nailed it.
Yeah. I very much agree. I think that, definitely.
But back up this. We have to close.
Yeah, we've got to close.
And I hate to end this discussion because this has been so much fun.
This has been a blast, yeah.
Alex, you were a phenomenal guest.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I hope you come back on the podcast
I
at some
hope
point.
that you'll have me back.
But do you have a Twitter handle, a Facebook page?
Sure, yeah.
Tumblr you want to promote?
I guess I'm primarily on Twitter if you want to hear me complain about music and movies and
well, they
politics
listen to this, so I'm guessing they might.
Yeah, so it's I would probably be in the bio. It's at Dadspar.
At Dadspar?
Dadspar. DADSPAR.
Okay.
So, and you can find me on there. I'm on Instagram. It's just my name, Alex Gaspar. I do a lot of graphic design work too. So
cool.
I'll plug that if you ever need anything for your punk band's weird fucking t-shirt or some shit. I'll be that guy. And also I just wanted to give a shout out, since this is a Rockford based podcast, I like to plug a band if I can, a friend's band.
Go for it.
My friends are in a band called Anzio, and they're a 3-piece screamo band if you're a fan of the mid-90s type of screamo post type of stuff. It's really awesome. They play a lot around town and stuff, and they're cool, and you should check them out. I think they have a Facebook. It's ANZIO, Anzio.
Well, yeah. Thank you, Alex. This has been
thank
fun.
you so much.
I'm Thomas Sinclair for I Wanna Like This. You, of course, can find us on Facebook and Twitter at I Wanna Like This. Oh, and Tumblr. And you can find us on Tumblr at I Wanna Like This. Once again, you can always find me, the T. Sinclair on Twitter and the Thomas Sinclair on Facebook. Everyone, go have a good day. And there you have it, episode 18, with the aforementionedly great named Alex Gaspar. It's really the last name. Alex is a great name. Alexander is a better name, but God, Gaspar is a great name. He's gonna hear this. But I hope you look him up. I hope you send him a message, and I hope it's a polite one, because don't be a jerk. Once again, I've gotten the shilling out of the way, but we here at I Wanna Like This would love to engage you in a conversation. So message us on the Facebook, message us on Twitter, leave a comment in the section below, but don't be rude. And if you get to go out and see a movie that you get really excited for and you're disappointed, let us know, and we'll talk to you about it. That's what we do here. We talk about movies and a lot of other things. So go have some experiences. Go have a great day.